I cannot do it in landscape.
All right, that's fine. Don't worry about that.
I know, it's just,
Why wouldn't let you do it in landscape?
we don't have enough subscribers.
You don't have enough subscribers to do it in landscape mode?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a good reason to get more subscribers.
We need 1,000.
If you want to watch the search service remotely in landscape mode, you need to subscribe to our YouTube page. Otherwise, they won't let you.
We need 1,000 subscribers.
1,000 subscribers?
Like 100. Because the problem is they don't want like everyone and their brother streaming from their phones. So, because Ben, no, if there's 1,000 people streaming on their phones doing like random stuff, it clogs YouTube up. So they want to limit it as much. Yes, Ben, there's something on your nose, by the way.
Can you
No, like.
start it so that I can check if it's working?
Yeah.
Is it okay to sit
Yes,
here,
it's going.
or might be in the way?
No, you're good. I'll be out of here and I'll just set the camera up.
Well, he's probably sick close by. Make sure it works.
It's fine. Where is That's fine. As long as the service doesn't run like an hour, it should be fine.
Let me know when it's starting.
It's already going. I have like no control over this. They don't want people streaming on their phones unless they're streaming to, because the problem is if they just let you do whatever, then every 8-year-old is going to be live 24/7 because they want to show all their friends what they're doing. So. There's only one way to find out, and that's to stream it.
What?
It'll either die or it'll keep going. It said about a minute. It drains about a minute per, or 1% per minute. So as long as we don't go over 100 minutes, it should be okay.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. It was so nice of you. So she's going to see. Did you see it? No, but you know you can go on YouTube to see Miss Mojo, and she'll do the top 20 songs. Thank you. You're looking for somebody to go? No, I'm going with Karen, the German lady here. Oh, but I certainly like it. We're going to do a Wednesday matinee in October. We haven't picked it out yet. We got to do it soon. But I'd like other people to come. You know, depending on how much the tickets, I didn't taste it yet, depending on how much the tickets are, 140 in October. Matinee. Because I'm going to ask my friends today if they want to go, and then I will really say, okay, Karen, we got it.
You know what? I'm not going to get a ticket, but let me know when you're going. And then maybe if I decided to list it, and sometimes they
They got some 39 dollars in the upper balcony.
I think 1, 2, 3.
Theaters, never. But you either led.
Hello, how are you? Morning.
Good morning. You got people coming in.
Okay. This is for you.
Thank you.
We're probably going to send them this week. I saw.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a couple.
This is a matcha tea I made.
I've seen it so many times on this page. For top 20 songs, I feel like I don't need to go now, but I will. No, you should go. That's what you're going to yes. It's very powerful.
I'm in the sun.
I didn't know anything. Oh, yeah. Now I know everything about Hamilton. Series. No.
Abigail.
Oh, what was that?
PBS on a disc. When somebody gave me this CD, I get it from the library.
Well, Joe is into the religions of our forefathers, and he's telling me a lot of stuff I didn't know too.
It was really good.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Give me a
Crossing
All right.
Religions are interesting, and there's a book review today in the New York Times book review section about religion of Lincoln, which is just a coincidence.
And you have a couple.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, thank you.
Tell me, is it too weak? Can you taste it?
Oh.
Nice.
It's nice. It's on the weaker side, but it's not a problem.
Oh,
This is the iced tea.
Where'd you get this?
I made it.
From matcha and it looks like coconut milk or
No,
almond milk.
I put a cinnamon stick and a vanilla stick. I'm okay, how are you? It was tea bags.
Oh yeah. Just
Good. So, I think I
Nobody
Hi everybody.
that's true.
Good morning.
How are you?
People look at Tommy.
Yes.
Nice, right? We went yesterday. It was so good.
Was it?
Yeah, here he comes.
I read the reviews and
Really good.
evidently it's very visual.
The outdoor. Hi.
And the dancing, the whole the set design, the teacher singing was really good.
Yeah. And I know these. That you know.
Kind of like popular songs, but I never really listened to like the whole thing, so I didn't know the whole story. So I was telling him, so right before we got there a little early, so my husband and I were just like doing the scene summary. I'm like, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't have probably known really what was going on.
Before I haven't been to many musicals down here. It's a shame. But before I do someone, I always listen to the music several times.
What song is that?
It's more enjoyable. Right.
Right.
I think
Yeah, I know.
And some of them you know the story because there's also dialogue.
Yeah,
But there's like when you go see Hamilton, there's no dialogue. You see this, there's no dialogue. So
yes.
it's like
but when Hamilton, I love that. I saw that. And once you realize what they're rapping, you enjoy it.
oh yeah. Yeah, but I was
Like
glad
they
I
sing
did
about
the
the
same thing that I did.
Oh,
Like I
that's
looked it up and I did a scene, I asked somebody to release a general
Oh,
idea.
you didn't?
But I still have
Events.
This has been the best summer.
Yeah.
I've been crazy busy.
Yeah, but not on your face.
Yep.
I've loved it.
Nice. It's nice to be busy. What do you
On the
do?
cow.
Well, I love
I'm
gardening.
listening for it right now in my car.
And I have just a group of friends who
Oh,
get
it's
together,
all
but you know, different friends once a week.
not before I want to hold your hand. I did. Yeah, that stuff was
Three times a
raunchy,
week for
wasn't
me.
it? They're really
No, just I'm going to.
I'm thinking of somebody else.
I think you are. There's another thing that's. Oh yeah, we've been taking photographs. Michelle and a couple other people, because she's the expert. And that's what I was going to be before I got married and got pregnant. I was studying photography. And so I gave that up. I'm trying to get it back into it.
You could have like a Beatles service
and
and
everything.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Well, that's
So, yeah,
true.
that's
Yes.
it's fun.
all the little
With these two friends.
three of them.
It's not at the same time, but just
Uh-huh. Do they see you?
Why do I do that?
They don't feel like
Nobody believed me.
yeah, you blew them out in the water.
get a picture of those.
Are you coming my way?
No.
We got room.
No, I got 4 kids.
We went to like the Roth radio hour last night at the theater.
Oh, you did? No, I'm good. I don't need a pretzel.
Oh, dear, oh, dear.
So good. I don't need one. No, thank you. Barbara do not want one. Do not make me one. I do only give her now.
Oh, you did go Tuesday.
Yeah. Because I know it's.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I probably could have gone, but we were running errands. And I didn't know if we were doing it or not. I was errands, but I didn't know.
A little bit of a slope, yeah.
The question was great. Yeah, very much. It was fun. It was really good. Yes.
Carol Claire. It's hard the first time I really seen it.
To the Grand Slam Barbara, they go to final contest.
You did?
They had to have like, was it Lincoln Hall?
Yeah, I think we're gonna end. Yeah, I remember you're gonna choose them first.
Yeah, no, I can't. I don't say what you
No, it's for me.
Okay, you want to I mean, I make my Thank you.
Joe brought us some lox and bagels. She had better bagels than we had, and you know what?
No.
She's right.
They were saying they had to drive all the way to the North Shore to get the bagels. Well, the kids are pretty good bagels. So I brought bagels, and it's their American bagel.
No.
I don't think so.
Good morning.
They're like that.
Welcome to this place of comfort and challenge of the familiar and the surprising. I'm Dave Lloyd. I'm a member of the church, and I'll be leading the service today. Julia Beckman is our worship associate, and our music is provided by Dennis Sejan. If you're new here or visiting, please join us for coffee and snacks inside the church after the service. Right through that door. Of course, you can grab your grub inside and hang out and chat outside in the nice weather. Grab a green mug so that we know to greet you. You have them inside. They're green. And today we have cake for Tony Taylor's birthday. There's always a lot going on around the church, and you can read about it. News and notes, which a lot of people read about this Friday. If you'd like to receive news and notes, you can go to the church's website, www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, and click on the Connect button on the top of the homepage. Or, I have paper with lines on it, and if you want to give us your email address, we'll add you to the news and notes. This has another use, too, which I'm previewing right now. Oh, don't even use this. The official visitor book is right over there. There is one event I'd like to highlight. This coming Friday, July 14th, the church is hosting a dinner at which everyone will be able to share stories and visions about the church. The point being to inform the Board of Trustees about what we want and what we see for the future of the church, so the board can develop a vision and a plan. That's this coming Friday, July 14th, at church at 6 p.m. and it's dinner. You need to sign up so they order enough food, and that's why I brought this. The invitation is in news and notes, but if you didn't get it, or you lost it, or blew it out, you can put your email here, and I'll send you a copy of the invitation, because you do need to sign up so they know how to get much food. Yes, ma'am.
David, there was no invitation in news and notes. I think there was a separate email that Bob sent out.
You're right. It was not in news and notes. It was a separate email from Bob Daniel Wayman, who's the president of the board. Right. Don't look at news and notes.
No, look at news and notes.
Don't trust it.
Look at
Yes, do look at those notes, but not for that. Okay, let's get serious. Julie, would you like to
Later.
do some ritual?
church and denomination with these words. You have them in front of you. Join me. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Thank you. Now, keep your paper in your hand. Please join together in our unison reading in your order of service. It's called Trembling with Joy. Trembling with joy, the great sea has set me in motion, set me adrift, moving me like a weed in a river. The sky and the strong wind have moved the spirit inside me, till I am carried away, trembling with joy.
And now, gather peace within yourself. Feet flat on the ground. And very often in church, we'll say, put your feet flat on the ground. We realize that it's the floor above a basement. But now we really are right on the ground in conception ourselves. Feel the energy flowing from us into the ground, and from the ground into us. Notice with all your senses, smell, even taste, and of course, hearing, what you feel below your body. If you close your eyes, you can imagine that you see anything, or if you open your eyes, it's beautiful, beautiful summer day. And think back on an event or an accomplishment that brought you great joy, or just a condition or a state that you find yourself in sometimes, where joy is so great you feel physically and from outside your house.
This is a reading from the author Molly Fumia. To be joyful in the universe is a brave and reckless act. Courage for joy springs not from the certainty of human experience, but the surprise. Our astonishment at being loved, our bold willingness to love in return, these wonders promise the possibility of joyfulness, no matter how often and how harshly love seems to be lost. Therefore, despite the world's sorrows, we give thanks for our loves, for our joys, and for the continued courage to be happily surprised. Thus ends the reading.
Now we come to the hymn part of our service. You have lyrics to Joy to the World by Three Dog Night. I am the last person in America to be experimenting with music, because to make music happen, you have to have music inside you. And people who know me will testify. I don't got the music inside me. However, Dennis is an expert and will lead us and accompany us on Joy to the World. The beginning, if you were around back then, or you hear this stuff on radio or streaming services, it starts very enthusiastic, but since we are not 22-year-old rock musicians. The first part that sounds, Jeremiah was both part. I'd like to do softly and sweetly, and then the chorus of Joy to the World. We can pick up the enthusiasm. Dennis, do you want to go through once?
Okay, next.
No, we know. Okay. Shall we start? Very good, everyone. This is the time in the service where we invite each other to share our resources to continue the work of this church. And here's a little message about how you can contribute funds to the church. These days, there are many, 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 many ways to give money. Some are easier than others, and some cost money too. Checks are always preferred because it's really easy for our bookkeeping and accounting staff to keep track of where the money's going. You get a report from time to time how you're doing on your pledge. Cash is okay too. If you give cash, cash is king. But unless you stick it in an envelope that says this is my pledge, it's just going to go to the church. If you pay electronically by credit card or by Square, that's fine too. It's harder to keep track because the way the services send records to the church, they don't call out this is from this person, so somebody's got to do double work. And of course that costs money too. So if you're paying electronically, if you can throw about, let's say 3.12% extra, round it off, that will help the church defray the financing costs. You'll get a receipt for the 103% that you sent in. Clear as mud, thank you very much. Our ushers will circulate around you and take your paper, currency, and checks. Thank you very much.
Can we say your words together for our offering? This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with people around us, and with all the world. Thanks in advance for your generosity.
Today's service is all about joy. So what do I mean by joy? There are a lot of words for a positive feeling: pleasure, happiness, ecstasy, contentment. How do we define joy? Let's look at and analyze joy. I'm aware that studying anything closely is the best way to strip the emotion. It's said that the least funny thing in the world is an essay on comedy. When someone analyzes comedy, they strip all of the comedy. Similarly, to make a logical and rational study of an emotion like joy, or fear, or anger, takes away all the emotion, takes away the joy itself. It's like joy is a big electron, just observing it changes it. But let me talk. Pleasure. Pleasure is most often associated with the senses. You have physical pleasure, eating, drinking, running and playing, doing other physical things. Happiness. When they talk about happiness, they're talking more about a state of mind than the one-time use that pleasure is. Pleasure is an event. Happiness is a condition, a way to be. I have a decent job. I have a home, a family. I have this community. I have worthwhile activities to pursue. I have every reason to be happy. And I am typically happy as long as the technology works. Joy is bigger. Joy is grander. Joy sneaks up on us. Joy has an element of surprise, disbelief. How could this possibly be? Joy appeals to our modesty, our humility. I don't deserve this. This is so wonderful. And joy involves a measure of self-awareness. If you do something pleasurable, you can say, that was fun, I like that. If you are happy, you can say, I'm happy. This is nice, this is okay. But with joy, it's, I have this. I got to see this. I had that happen. So the whole universe, that thing, and I, were in the same place at the same time. Joy is lucky. Helen MacDonald, in her book Vesper Flights, talk about how it's well established that nature makes us feel better. But that's not why it's there. Nature is just there, following its own purposes. We're just lucky to have been through millions of years of evolution that has caused us to prefer the beautiful natural surroundings we have grown up in, we have evolved in, rather than, for example, the surface of Mars where we've never been. When walking through the woods, I'll look up through the interlaced branches to the blue sky that goes on literally forever and feel joy. One amazing thought is that this whole universe, these trees, this sky, this sun, everything is here for me. And the other amazing thought is that it's not here for me. It's just here. I'm just lucky enough that it's here for me. I want everybody here to have the opportunity to talk about joy in their lives. A joyful moment, an experience that brought joy, or that is bringing joy right now. I'll go first with some things that have brought joy to me. Back in 2004, at the end of the year, I did what I do a lot of years, and that's to assess what I had done over the course of the year. Right at that time, toward the end of 2004, a good friend of ours was running a fundraiser and invited us to come to that fundraiser. That good friend was Jay Van Cura, and the fundraiser was here at UCH. So we came to the fundraiser, we met a bunch of people, had a good time. Suzanne and I were talking about, well, we should go there on a Sunday or something. And we went, and we talked about the sermon on the way home, which I had never done. And said, this is good, maybe we should come back. Maybe we should even join this church. And this is at a time, end of 2004, when I'm reflecting on the past year. And the three things that year that I remember that brought me joy. First, in the summer, I went on a road trip with my son. He turned 15 that year, and I knew that the following year he was driving places, and I'd never seen him. So I planned a trip. We started in the Chicago area. We went up into Wisconsin, through Illinois, Indiana, and ended up in Ohio. I had a book and some websites about weird places and things, you know, world's largest garden truck. So we get up each morning in a big breakfast, drive all day, see a bunch of crazy stuff, crash, and then at the end, the next morning start up. We ended up in Toledo, Ohio, at a little performance space watching the singer Melanie from the 60s. She was a good singer. And she was a big favorite of mine as I was growing up. So my son got to see Melanie, who was probably 7 years old. And he actually liked her, and he actually bought a CD. The second thing in 2004 was a dumb play that I wrote, based on Shakespeare's Richard III. You know, the one where the king kills his nephews. But in this play, Richard comes to Chicago to talk with the Chicago cops to figure out what happened. It was called Who Iced the Princess? There's a lot of humor from Monty Python, The Princess Bride, political references from the George Bush years. It's for this close. We staged the play at a big meeting of an organization I belong to, and it was a hit. People laughed, and it was terrific. The third joyful thing in 2004 was a trip that I put together with a bunch of friends to Wisconsin to work on the presidential election in November. You remember that in 2000, Al Gore had lost the election by 400 votes in Florida, and we weren't going to let that happen in the South. So we went to Wisconsin, swing state, to work on election day, trying to get the vote out. We didn't win, but it was real fellowship between the people who were there, and a number of people remarked, I felt like I was part of something bigger. I thought of other moments that have brought joy to me. There was one trip to England where I walked up this peak, which is a hill. They don't have mountains. And as I'm walking up, you walk through a field, a bunch of fields with sheep. Sometimes it's flat, sometimes it's steep. And only when you get to the cliff itself, you climb up big rocks. So I'm walking, climbing, I get up to the top. It's windy, it's turning a little colder, and I see in the distance a storm brewing. So, okay, I'm gonna get down before the storm. But the storm hits. I'm like a third of the way down this peak, and it's not just a storm, the wind is, it's hurricane force in my face, it's sleet in my face. I've got to tuck the camera into the hoodie. And this is something that we need to shout to the world about. In Shakespeare's King Lear, the king goes out in a storm and rages about the storm. I don't know that speech, so I just picked on a speech that I know. So I'm walking down this hill, sleet in my face. Once more up to the bridge, dear friends. We happy. The only audience, fortunately, was sheep. On another trip to England, we spent a day around the city of Salisbury, which in England is Salisbury. Okay. The old city from pre-Roman days was built up on a hill because it's good for defense. But over the centuries, people figured out there's a river right down here. We should put our houses on the river because it's better for trade. Somewhere in the Middle Ages, they just moved the whole city down to the river. They took the old cathedral down. They built a new cathedral, and they set up because there was peace and they didn't need to be on a defensive hill. Today, the old castle is still there, and the outline of the old cathedral is there in the ground. It's just the foundation, cathedral shaped. So we get to see that. And then in town, we get to the cathedral, and it's a beautiful church inside, tallest steeple in England. And they have one of the 4 remaining copies of the Magna Carta, which I've talked about before. And I almost missed seeing it. Thank goodness Suzanne said, they got the real one right over there. Travel 3,000 miles and you're 20 feet away from the original Magna Carta, and you don't see it. That would not be joyful. And then after that, we went to a small village called Great Wishford. They have a ceremony every year where people walk or ride down to the cathedral. They circle the cathedral 3 times, chanting and waving oak branches to commemorate and to preserve their right to collect firewood from the forest. This is why you go to England. Bizarre little local ceremonies, celebrations, the history of democracy, and the old ruined stuff that's scattered all over England. This is what the whole trip came down to.
It was one of the most joyful days of my life. And another very joyful day was the next time I got a group of people to campaign on Election Day, and that was November 6, 2008. We were part of a group of 11 people in Bowling Green, Ohio, working for the Obama campaign. We went door to door all day. We spent the whole day in small town America. It was really nice. And at the end of the day, we went to a bar with the campaign staff to watch the results. When they announced the state that put Obama over the top, Suzanne and I looked across the room at each other, and we just walked into each other. And we held each other's in our arms and cried real tears. And the next morning when I woke up, the first thing I said was, "Tell me this is Wednesday." I didn't want the whole thing to be a dream. And it's not just events that bring joy. I was trying to remember in my relationship with my son, besides that trip, what was something that was very joyful. And when he was little, small enough to hold in your arms, put on your shoulders, we would dance around. I put records on and we'd dance. And here's the quiz portion of our program. What song were we dancing to most often? 83, 84. It won't turn off. So yeah, he gets a lot of mileage out of that with his therapist now. Werewolves of Blood. And I was thinking about joy the other night, and I remembered how the simplest things bring joy. I was sitting on our patio behind the house looking over our garden. Right in front of our patio is a water feature, which is a waterfall. It's pondless, so we don't have to worry about fish and water quality and things. And there are all sorts of native plants all over and other plants. We have apple trees, we have native plants of all kinds, milkweed, aster, goldenrod, we have hazelnut trees, we have a vegetable garden, all within a 25-foot side lot, city lot. It was dusk, and the sun is setting behind the apartments building across the way. The sky was the color that I think I recognized from a movie or movies, like maybe 101 Dalmatians, which takes place in London, or maybe Mary Poppins. That urban sky, just at dusk. If you know the Maxwell Parrish prints with those very luminous skies, it was that sort of thing. So to go back to my cold logical analysis of joy, I was thinking of three sources of joy. First, the joy of having created something that brings either beauty or utility to the world. I could sit on that stone and concrete block patio because it was Sue's idea. She said, let's get something permanent for this space, and we hired a company and got this thing done, and it's very nice. The water feature is there because it was my idea, and Sue let me, and my son and I and his girlfriend dug the hole and put in the stones. We did that. It worked out, and we have a place to sit and think and read and meditate and be aware of joy. The setting sun, the dusk, the many colors and shades of the sunset, we had nothing to do with that. That's just a gift. We're just lucky enough that we're right there when it's going on, and it's going on right at the time that I could be there. And the garden is not something I created, but it's something that we participated in. It's a result of a collaboration. Michael Pollan, in his book Second Nature, says that one great thing about gardening is that you don't control nature, but you're not at nature's mercy. You work in teamwork with nature. You set the conditions where the sunlight and the rain that nature provides can have the best results, and using some natural forces to protect against other natural forces that would damage what you're trying to grow. but you can never predict with certainty. But sitting on the patio and looking around and saying, after the years and years that we've thought about this and worked on it and nature has worked on it, here's everything we have. I've concluded that for me, the greatest joy comes from that, from the things that I've done or we've done or received in collaboration with others. I'm aware of those things that I've made and of those things that are just gifts. But the greatest joy, and I look back at those things in 2004. I put a trip together with my son. He and I made it joyful. I did a goofy play, and all these people putting their effort and time as volunteers and getting the lines right and moving the scenery and the props. And that trip, not only the trip in 2004, but the trip in 2008, where a group of people, as they described it, did something that was greater than all of us. And we made a difference in the world. Working together and playing together, those are the sources of my greatest joy. I'd like everybody to talk about some joy in their life. If you care to, think about, is this something you did, something that's a gift, or something that you collaborated with? And I'm going to start with Julia.
It's been hard for me to even decide on one thing because there's so many things that bring joy. Any of us among you who have given birth know that to a healthy baby, that's a moment of amazing joy. You just can't even imagine it's possible that it really happened. And then, of course, comes the diapers and the crying and the stuff all night. That's later. But right then, when you've given birth, it's just, it takes you outside yourself. And then you brought up one other thing. You brought up the election in 2008, especially. I was driving that night, election night. We'd worked our little hearts out too here. And I was driving to another election party, listening to the returns, and I heard, I believe it was Ohio, that was the state that turned the tide. I nearly drove off the road. I was so joyful. And as soon as I got home from the other election parties, my congressman won too, I turned on the celebration at Grant Park. Oh my gosh, probably many of us saw that. Holy cow, it was joy beyond words. Of course, 8 years later, it was a little different, but that night was unbelievably joyful. It really did take us out of ourselves. Who else would like to?
So it was August of 2015. It was a gorgeous day like this.
Hold it close.
Huh?
Hold it closer right there.
Okay, now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not very good at this. It was August 2015. It was a gorgeous day like this, and a good friend of mine and I had traveled north to a little lake, and we had rented some kayaks, and we were paddling around and just absorbing all the beauty of nature, and it hit me that I felt joy. And it was the first time I had felt joy in over 5 years. And to give you the context is because my husband had passed away, and I had realized I had traveled through that desolate valley of grief, and I had come out the other side. I felt joyful, and it was very powerful.
This may be a little different than most of the joy that has been experienced. As a youngster, I grew up in New Jersey, a state that had a ban on all fireworks. And yet as a youth, it was the love of my life. I would study, at that time, comic books. Back of the front and the rear cover would have advertisements with pictures of fireworks. I would just foam at the mouth and drool over these things. But again, fireworks were illegal in New Jersey. I did have an opportunity to leave my neighborhood, as I call it, my Polish village, and go into the big city of New York, with a couple of my cousins, and being novices, we went to where? Chinatown. That's where all firecrackers came from. And all the people stared at us and sent us away. And one finally told us, go to Little Italy. And it was in Little Italy that I acquired my first big pack of fireworks. Took them back to Jersey. But it wasn't until, and I still continue to drool. By this time, these comic books were soaked, by the way, with all the drool. It wasn't until I really left this little village to go on a summer job in Alabama. And on the way back, I took a train and stopped in South Carolina. I remember it vividly, and I visited a fireworks wholesaler. I was in heaven. I had never touched and felt and smelled so much in my life. And I returned to New Jersey with a suitcase full of fireworks. That is my joy till today.
So my joy, especially since after the pandemic and we've been able to gather in big groups again, has been seeing live music and being able to experience concerts again, because of course we didn't know for a long time if that was going to happen. And just that feeling where the bass is so loud it makes your heart beat like you're not sure what your heartbeat is and what's the bass. And then going and experiencing that with other people. So probably the greatest joy was seeing Taylor Swift with my niece Taylor. And experiencing her joy at that concert was amazing.
I'll spin off a couple that have already been mentioned. I was never a person who had a lot of goals, plans for my future. I was doing pretty good if I could figure out what I was going to wear the next day, and had my homework done. But the first moment of joy that I'm thinking of was when my daughter was born. Now, we have this stereotype, or this image, this idea of this ecstasy, which you described, Julia. I don't even remember being in the delivery room, and I was not under anesthesia. And my husband was there. They were letting men do that at that time. It was kind of a new thing. And I had been home a couple of days after she was born, and things had kind of settled down a little bit, and I was changing her probably on the changing table. And all of a sudden, then it hit me. Then that moment of, oh my God, look at this thing in front of me. And I guess that's what some people experience upon delivery. Maybe some people, it takes a little while longer, but it surprised me. And in years since, I have always wondered why this difference between when people, or if they even, feel that. I'm glad I did. My second one was, again, I didn't plan, but a year after I had retired and I was exhausted. I really thought I wasn't going to make it another day. And a friend had a trip to Ireland planned, and she invited me, and I thought, oh sure, Ireland, got to do it. And we were walking the streets of Galway one evening, and I heard music coming from a church, and of course I had to check it out. The doors were open, and it was a Greek Orthodox choir rehearsing for their concert the next day. So we walked in the church, and it was empty except for the choir, and it was sunset, and there was a Rosetta window, and the sun, of course they had built it so that the sun would come right through that window. And the sound of that choir in that church, and the sun coming through that glorious stained glass window, and I just wept. For me, joy brings tears, whether it's a simple little thing or a big thing. And I couldn't believe that I was there. Well, I got to finish the story. The next day I wanted to go hear the concert, and it wasn't anything near the same. The church was filled, the acoustics were lousy, so I'm glad I had that moment alone.
Hi, I'm Mike Pavian. And I've had recently many instances of joy, a lot of which involve little kids. But just really short, on Thursday nights, I am in a ukulele group. And it is very interesting the joy that you can get when you're part of a group making music. Now, the ukulele is something that you can pick up very easily. You don't have to be able to read music. They have little cheat sheets and stuff that you can do. But every once in a while, there's a song when we're all playing together, and there's a guy that comes that has a bass ukulele, and the bass, the bass is something that gives a lot of depth to the feeling, so you feel like you're part of something good, and especially when we play Werewolves of London, it's just awesome. So.
We have time for one more. Oh, sure.
In a similar vein to music, my extended family is all extraordinarily musical, and so when we get together, we usually sing Grace. And so everyone, there's 30 of us maybe, and people just split into 4-part harmony, and it just, every time, it just brings me so much joy to just hear that, a chorus of people singing together just spontaneously. Yeah, that one.
Thank you, everyone. And after the service, by all means, let's hang out and share other stories of joy with each other. Now, please join together in our unison reading, Joy, Beautiful Spark of Divinity. These words are by the German poet Friedrich Schiller and are the lyrics to the Ode to Joy in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Joy, beautiful spark of divinity, daughter of Elysium, may enter, drunk with fire, heavenly one, thy sanctuary. Thy magic binds again what custom strictly divided. All people become brothers, where their gentle name abides.
Please join in our chalice closing words, our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Al?
Can I make an announcement?
Please do.
Well, we have a It was a news and notes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It was a news and notes, but we have a joy, which is that Shar got married yesterday. And that is a terrific joy. Congratulations.
Yes.
Here are closing words from Thich Nhat Hanh. Sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. The service is over. Go in peace.
Want me to go in with you?
Oh, it's still going.